Alright, so I'm gonna try and give you all a quick POV on pulling this transmission out. So yesterday we came out here and we got lucky that the transmission was an HP 70. We didn't come with the right tools yesterday. Somebody's already been here, cut a bunch of stuff up. It looked like they stopped. Maybe they ran out of time and came out here like right before they closed or something and just haven't been back. I don't know, but we're gonna take the risk and try and get this transmission. What we need to do is get that ground strap off, but before we get that ground strap off, there's 2 Torx down at the bottom that I won't be able to reach once everything touches the ground. So we're gonna try and get those off first. I think it's an E10 or maybe an E12, and we're going to use our long extension here with a swivel so we could get it right up underneath it. Let's see if this works. And yeah, I am not having fun kneeling down in this glass and shit, but let's see. E12, perfect. Use our ratchet, break it loose, and then we'll go ahead and pull that bolt out. I wonder if one of these have a, like, here we go. This works. That way I'm not in the fucking glass. Alright. And we want to be careful not to damage the pan, because I think the pan has the filter also on these transmissions. But either way, we want to try and get this thing out of here with minimal damage. Less stuff we have to do when we go to swap it into the BRZ. So less things to have to worry about is the goal. Oh, we're already taking a risk and pulling a junkyard transmission. Hopefully it's good. So apparently this junkyard does do premium engines and transmissions, meaning that they already tested them and the car ran and drive perfectly fine, but they come at like a higher cost, like a way higher cost apparently. This is not one of those transmissions. I didn't see it marked, so they're not guaranteeing that it is actually working, but you know, there's some rebuilds that can be done on these and they look fairly easy to do, so there's also that. Not that we want to have to rebuild it, but we're also not going to get another HP 70 for the price that we're going to get it from the junkyard, so there's that too. Alright, so we got our 2 bottom bolts out, so that's something we won't have to worry about when we pull this ground strap off, because once that ground strap comes off, this thing is coming down, and it's probably going to drop down fairly quickly. Hopefully we don't sustain any damage to the pan, but let's see. Let's get I think it's a 14 or 15. More than likely it's a 15 because it's been a 15 on this thing so far for a lot of stuff. So we'll put that there. Try and put everything back. I can't tell you how many tools I've lost coming to the junkyard. So what did I say, 15, right? That was a lot smaller. There we go. All right. Now, let's see if we could drag this shit out. I'll probably have to walk it side to side. Oh, this is still on there too. I'm just gonna have to cut this line because that's already pulled on there. All right. We're gonna have to get a hoist over here. Damn. The closest one is like way down there. So either we do that or we're gonna have to squeeze ourselves right in between here, crouch down, pull that starter off, get the rest of these outside bolts, which shouldn't be too hard because we're right here, and then we could drag the transmission back out that way. That might be our best bet because I'm not trying to leave all my stuff here while I go grab a hoist for somebody to come tamper with. I'm also not walking away from this for somebody to come up under me and swoop it. So I'm gonna pause this and be right back. So what we ended up deciding to do is we're just gonna pull it out through here because we're not gonna leave all of our stuff here to go grab one of those hoists, and we can drag the transmission backwards. I already pulled the 2 bolts from the bottom, so this shouldn't be too challenging to get the rest of it out, knock on something, aluminum, but we're pretty close. We already got all the, well, all but one of the bell housing bolts out for the top section. We got to remove this cooler line to get the rest of them out. We'll just pull this to the side, and we want to make sure that we're being mindful of the whatchamacallit, of where these holes are, so that we're not getting debris or anything inside this transmission while we're doing everything else. So we should be able to reach this other bolt now down here. We're just gonna pull these out of the way. We're actually not gonna keep those lines or need them for what we're doing. And yeah, now it's leaking some of that expensive ass transmission fluid, but that's okay. All right, so we got one more bolt to take out there. We'll pull the starter out of the side. That way we can get some access to the, we'll get some access to our torque converter bolts, and hopefully this engine spins. If not, we're gonna end up having to pull it without the torque converter and figuring another way around that. I have done it before, but I don't have anything here to cut to get in between that torque converter and those bolts to try put that to loosen. All right, so before we get all of them out, let's go ahead and get the bolts out for the starter. We might have to take this mount off to be able to slide that starter out without having to disconnect all those wires. Go like that. Should pop that right off. There's a lot of glass. Kind of want this all the way out of the way. All right. So now you should be able to get the bolts off of the torque converter. Hopefully I have the right size, which I don't think I do for this. Let's see. Nope, of course I don't. Why would I have the right size for that? Alright, let's figure something out. Might have to try to borrow, I think that's a 30 millimeter or something, or I could try turning it with those Torx. Let's try that. Alright, so it took us a little while, but we got the transmission pulled, and it really wasn't that bad, but it ended up being okay because it allowed us to not have to take the drive shaft out, not have to mess with the exhaust too much. All that shit was already cut. I did screw up by dropping this all the way down when it was in the car, and I thought that the torque converter bolts were going to be behind the starter. They were actually underneath, so we just pried it up while we were at the junkyard to get those bolts. So what we did was we measured the bell housing on that and compared it to our space here for this thing. And where's my tape measure so I can show y'all real quick. So this space where we want it to be is about, we'll probably have the bell housing come out to about here. So you get about 19 inches of space. And we're going to remove this and end up routing these lines more along this pathway here anyway. So that's neither here nor there, but that's going to be removed. So it gives us just enough space to be able to access these bolts when we need to. And if we're measuring from ear to ear on here, we're looking at about 17 3/4, just right outside of 3/4 of an inch. So we have the same height as our Dodge transmission. Well, actually, this is a little bit shorter. This is closer to 16 inches, whereas the Dodge transmission is about 16.5. And the bell housing on the Dodge transmission is about 19 inches wide from this corner to the other one. So if you look here, from this ear to that ear on the Dodge transmission is about 19 inches. And I know this because I measured it before, but I'll just try to show y'all real quick. Yeah, I need shop space because this garage is starting to get too small. But yeah, we'd be looking at pretty close to 19 inches. And that's going to be way too wide because we're only working with 19 inches in that area. I don't want to have to cut the chassis if I don't have to. Granted, I mean, we're probably going to cut this and tube the chassis up in the front, but I don't want to have to cut anything back here behind the firewall, have to pull the dash out or anything like that. We want to try and leave all of this the way that it is. So the BMW transmission, if we're sitting out about here, that should be perfect and we won't have to cut any of this stuff. Only other thing I'm concerned about is it's a 2J, so it's going to be pretty long, pretty heavy. I measured the 2J starting about here. It would end up coming out to about here. If I tube the front, I should be able to make some mounting brackets and everything for the radiator and the intercooler without having to use this stuff, which is fine. But I'm trying to make sure that weight ratio-wise, we're still going to be able to distribute the weight properly. I don't know, we may end up doing the radiator and everything back here to keep the weight kind of offset so the car could be as even as possible because, I mean, that 2J is pretty long. And it's a cast iron block, aluminum head, so it's going to be a lot of weight in the front. That transmission, I mean, it's light enough for me to pick it up with my bare hands, so that's fine. When it's all mounted in the car, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then I still got to decide what I want to use it for, because this one's for drifting. This one's supposed to be for, like, time attack and autocross and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, you can get a pedal option for this with a clutch pedal, and you can actually clutch kick it and slide it. So we might toy around with different ideas and kind of see where we end up. But that's just a quick update. Transmission wasn't super hard to pull. There's some 70s that have been holding up like 1,000 horsepower with like 700 torque pretty consistently. So we'll see how that goes. If anyone's interested in an 8HP 70, I have one from a Dodge Ram 1500 that I am going to be selling because we're not using this one anymore. So if you're interested in an 8HP 70, hit me up. I got that one right there for sale. And since we're going over to the BMW one. Also, while we were there, we went ahead and pulled this turbo. We'll see what ends up happening with this. I'm low-key thinking about throwing it on this bike. Not sure, because my boy Slick Tech let me know a few things yesterday that I wasn't considering with the bike, but if I could get another engine, screw it. I'll just run this with a eyeball tune with the turbo and see how long it lasts. If it blows up, I'll get another engine, leave it NA, and call it a day. But it would be fun to play around with the turbo on a bike. So yeah, y'all stay tuned, and we'll see what ends up happening with the rest of this car. Next thing we got to do is get the adapter plate, get everything kind of bolted up, and start fitting it in there so I can make the mounts for everything and start getting this car together. All right, peace. I'll see y'all later.